Welcome, everyone. It is 5:15 on Monday, October 26, 2020, and the Carroll City Council meeting is now in session. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please note everybody's in attendance. The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which is approval of the minutes from the October 12th meeting, approval of bills and claims. Under licenses and permits, we have the renewal of a Class C liquor license with outdoor service and Sunday sales, Rancho Grande. Renewal of a Class E liquor license with a Class C beer permit, carryout beer, and Class B wine permit with carryout wine includes native wine for Fairway Stores Incorporated, number 409. We have the renewal of a Class C beer permit with Class B wine permit. Carryout wine includes native wine and Sunday sales, High B fast and fresh. And finally, the renewal of a Class C liquor license with catering privilege and Sunday sales for High B Market Cafe. Is there any discussion with regards to the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
There's a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Cots?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Fleischer?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is oral requests and communications from the audience. And we have someone who would like to speak, but I just want to make sure that there's nothing else out there that with regards to the
Start with Brad.
oral communications. Just start with Brad right away. Okay. Brad, please, this is Mayor Jensen, and go ahead and proceed, please. Is he there? Still? Got the,
Brad, we can't hear you.
you might have to unmute your mic, Brad.
Well, he has it on muted.
Oh, it is. Nothing. This was just an update on the Fairview Village apartment management.
Brad, can you say something, Brad?
Brad, is that?
I can hear you now, Brad. Can you mute your mic on your computer?
Brad, are you still there? Is he still on there then?
Brad, I think you maybe called in too. Can you mute your computer, but then unmute your phone and try that now?
Yeah, it's sitting right here, but I see looks like there's a muted mic on him.
Mike, I had noticed on the, when they had all the different screens up there, he was one of them in there.
Yeah, I mean, he's shown up twice, I think. So I think you have an independent phone that maybe you're muting too, Brad. We could hear you on that. We just can't hear you on your computer.
Now, Mike?
We can hear you now, Brad. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Go ahead, Brad. I think you wanted to give us an update.
Yeah, one thing. Hold on.
We heard you good there, but we can't hear you anymore, Brad. We can't hear you yet.
Still
Brad.
can't hear you. We were hearing you before, but not now.
About now.
We can hear you good. Thank you.
Okay. Is that echoing there for you guys?
We do not hear an echo on our end.
Okay. All right. Hey, guys, me have the opportunity today. Talk to you. I just got things in
Brad?
order.
Brad? I'm sorry. Brad, can you hear us? Brad? Sorry. Can you turn
Yeah.
the volume off on your computer? Because I think we're not hearing the echo on our end, but I think it is causing feedback, and so we're getting you really choppy. We lost your audio now. You just want to make sure you just have one audio source, so either a phone or your computer. If you have both, that's what will create an echo. So if you're using a computer and a phone, just make sure you have the volume on the computer off and your mic off on the computer.
Still can't.
We cannot hear you, Brad.
Mr. Mayor, is this something that we could wrap back around to a latter part of the agenda? Can we get some audio back?
We could. I think there may be other people that are online that also want to talk during open forum. So, I mean, if there's some other people, we could move to them. And maybe one suggestion, Brad, would be to just not use the video part and just call in and talk to the council that way, because we know that will work. And I think I sent you the phone number earlier today, Brad. So if you want to ask if there's other
Yeah, certainly.
members that want to talk.
So we'll hold on the Fairview Village Apartment mandate update. Are there anybody else online that would like to speak with regards to the oral requests and communications from the audience? If so, you'll have to unmute your mic so we can hear you. I see an Amanda Dreesen.
Hi, Amanda. We can hear you. Go ahead.
So I heard.
It's still choppy.
Accept that.
Hi there, this is a call from Go2. To join your meeting, press pound or hang up.
caller 3 is left. I don't think she's there anymore.
Mayor Jensen, this is Brad Carroll.
Okay. Brad, I can hear you now.
Okay, good.
There you go. I think we're good. Go ahead.
Okay, again, I wanted to thank you guys for letting me, keep up this meeting and get on what we're,
Still choppy.
I have, organized a new team at down there, 6 days a week, 8 hours a day. We have, received on camera, spoke with the police department on those, and are working on the paperwork that hope to have done in the next 30.
What was that last part again?
The camera bid, and we are working on the paperwork that approved, and hope called in the next day.
So I take it you're working on cameras, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then there was something you had mentioned after that, but it was kind of choppy. I kind of missed some of that.
Yeah, we're just hoping to have those stuff next days, installed and running.
In the next 10 days?
30.
Oh, 30 days. Okay, gotcha. All right. Okay. That sounds good.
The closest in the town, I'm as frustrated as you guys are. It does not reflect the company, the way we run it. And we will be making, fixes needed the way we, and I feel with, the last couple meetings we've had, we've got the right team and, the right people moving in the right direction. We can all, across the finish line to where we want to be with this property.
Okay. I know Mike and Brad have talked to you. I think just kind of keeping in touch with them, and, you know, if it works a little bit better, talking with Mike and then relaying that information to us, that seems to help a lot. Appreciate what you've been trying to do to get
Is
this.
there?
Yep. Are you still there?
You have to start all over, again, Mayor.
Oh, again, I think if just keeping in touch with Mike and Brad, and they both do a pretty good job of keeping the council up to date when Mike meets with him. I think just so that, you know, maybe once a week, maybe just you and Mike get together and speak and just keep us updated to keep this moving in the right direction. It'd be very much appreciated. I think the community, the citizens would like to see this be successful ultimately at the end, and we just don't want to see any more stuff going on out there like we have in the past.
I understand that, and, once the fight would be no issues whatsoever.
Sounds good, and I think that sounds fair enough. Does anybody else?
What did he say about his management? Did he say something about his
Are
management?
you getting some new management? Is that what you were saying?
I couldn't.
We have new personnel that is we're gonna have 2 people, at the property, 5 to 6 days a week, 8 to 9 hours a day.
Oh, okay.
With specific duties, goals to reach. They will have contact with the police department and, Mike's office on a weekly, if not more regular basis. And then duties will probably change as we go to assess to whatever needs to be done.
Okay, that makes sense. Now we got all that. Thank you. Did everybody get that? Okay.
We're gonna pause for 1 second, because we're gonna have to redo some of the GoToMeeting phone system, because I think we're having some conflicts here, so I apologize, but
Okay.
I think it'll be better for the rest of the meeting if we can make some quick changes.
Okay.
So bear with us for just 2 minutes.
Is that Brad? Then Brad can go. You know, if
He
anybody-
may stay around.
Okay.
but-
Please enter your access. The access code you entered is invalid. You entered 6.
Please try again. Always works when you test it.
Would you like a motion to adjourn?
I think some people would be greatly appreciated.
Please enter your access code followed pound or the you entered no digits. Goodbye.
Okay. We'll just move on, like.
Well, we can't because this is how we have to have communication. To be open to the public,
Oh.
we gotta have it, so it's not an option.
Please enter your access code followed by To enable audio controls, please enter your audio PIN followed by the pound or hash sign. If you do not have a PIN, just press pound or hash.
It's working now.
Can other people hear us, like Randy or Dave Bruner? Could one of you just respond and let us know if you can hear us well?
I can hear you loud.
Okay.
Thank you. I think we will have resolved the issue.
I can hear you loud.
Muted. Unmuted.
So I would ask now if there's other public comment.
All right. One more time. Are there any other individuals who'd like to speak during the open session, oral requests and communications from the audience for items not on the agenda? Please unmute your mic.
I have a question for you.
I don't know if she was going to speak or what. I couldn't quite make out what she was saying. It was choppy again.
Is she on?
I'm not seeing it now that she is on, but she could be like caller 3 or caller
Yeah,
7 or
I just-
caller 8.
And I have
But it-
unmuted them.
Yeah. But I haven't got a response from anybody at this point. There's a Kelsey has arrived, and that mic is muted. Okay? If there's no one else, then we'll go ahead and move on with the rest of the agenda. Under ordinances, We will move to Carroll City Ordinance, Chapter 44, Noise Control Edition. And Chief, please.
Thank you, Mayor. If you guys remember, December of 19, we had to make an amendment to our disorderly conduct code, reference a court ruling that made some of that code unconstitutionally vague, which didn't allow us to file charges on it anymore. Mainly that dealt with our noise control. Since that time, we've had a few complaints, quite a few complaints. I know the mayor's also taken some complaints, and I met with him and the city manager a few weeks back. During that discussion, we decided it was a good idea to create a noise ordinance and bring that before you, which is what you have here in front of you tonight. This ordinance is a draft that was created, like many of our ordinances, from multiple cities across the state dealing with noise issues. So it comes from cities our size, smaller, and larger, of course, and it's kind of a combo of all of them. Dave Brunner has reviewed it, made some changes to it, city manager also, and what I bring to you now is the first reading, or the first draft that we have put together on the noise ordinance. I'm sure there's some questions, and I'll try to answer as best I can. My recommendation is just to have the first hearing on this tonight. This has not been made public except for the council meeting, so we have not had any feedback from any source at this point, but would look forward to hearing some information from people who are concerned with it, or on the opposite side, happy to see it come into play.
So most of the behaviors that we would go after and here would end up with the $90 or $155 fine, is that?
Through the violation, and how that dollar amount is determined by state code.
Okay,
And that was just adjusted. Remember, last council meeting, we had to make adjustments to our charging amounts, and that's where this reflects.
that's what this one comes from?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Brad.
Brad, is there anything in particular that changed that you would point out, or just an overall?
So the main complaints we're getting are, it's usually from a neighbor complaining about another neighbor, loud stereos, revving engines, different things like that. So it's mostly a noise complaint within residential neighborhoods. And that's, in the past, with disorderly conduct was able to work for those. That portion of the code was too vague, and so now we're no longer able to charge that. So this will help with those issues. Now, it doesn't completely replace our disorderly conduct code, because that has other parts of it that we use quite often. And the main thing that we're doing here is just with the noise problem. And that's what we had to have issues with our disorderly conduct one. It's believed that this code will, it's a lot stronger, and it's worded much more in depth than that disorderly conduct one was also. So that shouldn't present any problems within the court system. And Dave Brunner, who's going to be the one that gets to prosecute these, has reviewed it too and believes it should be okay.
Yeah, that was my next question. I thought David reviewed it.
Yes, and he made and we had some minor changes that he wanted on here too that are in play.
Very good. Are there any other questions for Brad? If not, I will look for a motion to uphold the first reading of the ordinance edition of the noise control, chapter 44 of the City of Carroll Code of Ordinances.
So moved.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. There's no other discussion. We'll go ahead and vote, please.
Base? Yes. Fleshner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Cots?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
And then this will be brought back at the next meeting. for the others.
Yep,
Okay.
and we'll see, I'll bring any feedback that I've received, and hopefully if you
Okay.
guys have some too, forward that to me, and I'll bring that back to our next meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
The next item on the agenda is the Parks and Recreation fee and policy changes and, oh, sorry. I'll wait till you're ready,
Gotta
Jack.
shuffle.
Sorry. Yeah, that's right. I should have been looking. Go ahead and start when you're ready, Jack. That's fine. Thanks.
Mayor. First, we have the Aquatic Center. The 2020 update basically was just a summary of revenue expenses. Obviously, this year was really tough on us. But expenses outside of the projects that we did was down maybe just a little bit from the other years because we weren't open as many hours and those different things. So the big expense, again, I believe we talked about this at the planning last week discussion. 3 projects: painting, caulking of the pool heater, new pool, water pads. Those came to just a little over $100,000. So that really, and we're able to do that through the general fund and get that done with things. And this is probably our 3rd time painting the pool. First time a pool heater and the water pads. Memberships. Current memberships, 190. Proposed is 200. Caregiver. So a grandparent, a babysitter can have a caregiver membership that does not get them into the facility unless they're with a family that they're caring for. Single membership, $95. Proposed is 100. Bulk rate is 400, and that would go to 425. And daily admission from $6 to $7. And that is kind of from what sorry, I didn't get this. Some from other cities, a lot of other cities are $5 to $5.50, $6. So we're still in the ballpark. We haven't raised it since 2008, 2009. So I think we're due to look at raising that. Any questions with those? Next would be the golf course. Again, I gave you all the revenue and expenses, profit loss since 2000. I don't know if there's any specific questions on that. Memberships. Family membership currently $781, proposed to $820, approximately a 5% increase, and they go down in order: adult, senior couple, and student, all with approximately a 5% raise. Golfers do have an option to take advantage of paying for any membership over a 12-month period. The golfers may pay 12 months payments, and attached is the race that the PAMPs will go to.
Hey, Jack, can you pull the mic closer to you?
Okay, yeah. Okay, sorry. Green fees, slight increase on green fees, as you can see. Any questions with that? Golf cart rental. So we have 30 golf carts that we have out there, and I want to say we had about 40 to 45 people that took advantage of this golf cart rental. And that can be a little bit tricky, just to make sure there's always one available, because we want to have walk-ins. So usually what we'll do is if Mike wants to have a cart tomorrow at 11, he calls the day before, Brenda puts it on the schedule, and it works pretty well. But any questions with the rates proposed to the increases?
When was the last race?
2 years ago, 19. It'll be 2 years. And again, a lot of times people will come in and pay for it before January 1, so I still have last year's rates, because it does take effect on that. I've attached all the different revenues, expenditures, different ways of categorizing them. With any questions, I don't want to read each one. I give you the graphs, kind of show the trends. Number of rounds and fees collected. That is really, if you go to page 7, that is really hard to tell what we did. This came from before me. Is we take that 90,963 and take green fees of $9 times 1.5, and then we divide that number by the. Then we get the number 5381, or 5351. So today Mike might play 9 holes, Clay plays 18, but they're both walk-ons. It's really hard unless we have a sophisticated computer system we haven't bought to tell exactly how many rounds of golf there is. So that's an estimate. And a round of golf is 9 holes. Some people think that's 18, but 9 holes is considered a round. Anything with the golf course?
The cart rental, that's a yearly fee, and you get a cart whenever you ask for it, is that right?
Yep. You gotta call the day before to make sure you get it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's 40 of them that.
That's quite a few people
Yeah.
that take
Big-
advantage of that. That's good.
Yeah. I know people have told me they've sold their golf carts because they feel that this is a cheaper way to go. I know I think it was Mike just talked about a golf shed out there, and you know, there's still probably some possibilities or some need, I guess, to do that, but those numbers have dropped down. So, good question. Rec Center, yearly membership, again, looking at approximately 5% to give it an even number. And you can see the PAMP payments where they go to. Monthly membership, so again, the difference, you could buy a yearly membership, divide the payments over 12 months, or if you just want to be there November, December, January, February, we offer the monthly rate. And those are according, those follow with all the different rates and a slight increase on those. Additionally, with the rate change, former low income reduced membership rates are being eliminated. A new monthly amount is being proposed. A family would be $19.75. And how we came up with that is we took the yearly membership. So if you take the yearly family membership of $453 divided by 12, you get the $39.50. Divide that in half. So those are all the different rates and how that came up.
Where's the rate for the people that do not live in the city?
We did not propose that.
I thought we talked about that the
We
last
did
meeting.
talk about it.
We talked about doing it the last meeting.
Thought that was supposed to be an addition.
Yeah.
I know we can look at it and determine, you know, do you want a 5%, 10% increase? I think just Mike can talk about it too. I think just with the economy and the way things were going, I think we decided not to propose it the last discussion we had.
I thought at our last meeting we talked about doing that. Anybody else remember that?
Yeah, you did.
Remember
Yeah, we did talk
discussing
about
it.
it, yeah.
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 I don't think
How
there-
many out-of-town memberships would you,
And correct me if I'm wrong, what area are you on again? I was,
Rec Center.
Rec center memberships.
Remember we decided to pull that because of the economy? At least that's how I took that.
well, I know we pulled it out of the aquatic center when you and I were having a discussion because we wanted
We
it.
didn't want to do the
Because
golf
we knew
course.
there was other aquatic centers that were with Glidden,
Yeah.
and I guess I didn't catch that, but no,
Yeah.
I think you're right, we had talked about that, and we had intended to do
Because I think it was in there
the
one
rationale
time.
was the 5% specifically with the rec center, that was kind of the offset that had the taxpayer, so, no, I would agree that was an item we discussed. And I'm sorry if I know we had looked at, Jack and I were going back and forth, and that probably just got eliminated my fault.
So you could probably do a out-of-town membership and add 5% to the regular membership, correct?
That was our thoughts, that we would have a
Okay.
5% add-on to the regular rec center membership. And the idea behind that was we wanted to be able to equate that to basically a average valued home when you
Right.
apply it to a rec center membership. They're paying about 5%.
And just so you know, some of the things that were brought up last time is, I live in Glidden, but I have a business in Carroll. You just want to go strictly by residency, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what
That's what we talked
about.
about, yeah.
that, yeah.
And, you know, we could do 5% again. I would just maybe ask you to let me round it to the nearest dollar, make it even easier, up or down from that point. Count. I have a phone. Get my calculator here. Take one of them, for example. So family at 453 times 1.05, 475.65. So we go 476. That'd be a 5%. Divide that over 12 months. And do you want that for monthly memberships too, if they just go month to month?
What'd you just say the number was?
If we went 453,
474.
You gotta go 474.
You gotta
the
go.
proposed.
oh, right,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, 474 times 105, 497.70, so you do 498.
498, yeah.
So what I would suggest is, obviously, there's gonna be a revision that we're gonna need to make.
Correct.
If that's the direction council's gonna want to make, so let's.
Well, I want to be
continue
clear
go-
that we talked about that, because I remember talking about it.
You're right, you're absolutely right, that
We
was,
did.
that was
Okay.
something we had discussed. And I know it's, I'll take the fault for it.
Yeah, it's whatever. We just gotta make sure it's
So
right.
what I would do is, let's keep going through the rest of it,
Okay,
and then we'll bring it, we'll have to bring it back in 2 weeks
Okay,
as an item.
okay.
memberships, the membership numbers, I do apologize, there's some discrepancies, some things that just don't flow. For instance, 2013 in December, 3,335 memberships, and we lost 1,300 in January of 14. So again, that shows our software inconsistency. I went back and tried to look at what we had. This was also when we're with class, so it's kind of hard. There's no memberships, but I tried to keep a file of those. And so there are some discrepancies, but I can tell you, we have low 3,000s during the winter months, and we drop down to 2,800 during the summer months. So any questions with memberships? We're getting ready to post, I think it might be on Facebook right now, the rec superintendent, and that's one thing we're gonna really stress and work on is make sure everyone knows about our memberships and be competitive and try to work on that. And then just all the different, I won't go into them individually unless you want to, because you've seen these reports. I have done these all the time at the council meetings. Any other questions with what's being proposed? So we'll bring back,
Bring back the Carroll Family Aquatic
Yeah.
Center Municipal Golf Course and the rec center fees and charges with the amended.
okay.
Yep.
And the only thing I would ask is, we really want to send out the last week of November, the rec center and the golf memberships, what the rates go to, so people know in January.
Okay.
So you could pass one ordinance, pass 2 or 3, whatever you want to do at the next meeting. Well,
I think we'll just keep it all in one.
yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Question, is there any other changes other than that, the out-of-town rate to add?
I think that was the only one that we really had
At the
the
rec center.
issue with, yeah. Unless anybody else saw anything else in there, with the aquatic center or golf.
Well, one thing that was interesting, so I had asked Jess to call around to other pools during the summer months, what they do. One challenge we have is, during the summer, I might have a nephew, niece come live with me. They're on a family membership, they're not really a family, or they're here for a few weeks and they try to just add them. A lot of towns are, and how many can be in a family? A lot of towns are just going to a base family, $75, and then it's $25 for each person, or it's just, if you're a family, you just have a single membership. Ours would be $95. You can be on any family membership. So there are communities in Des Moines that really struggle like we do. We get people that come in and, oh, well, that's Cody, he's my son, or, so there's just challenges when you open a pool, and a lot of times it's trying to add cousins and.
But normally they would just pay the day rate.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll get a separate membership for them.
Okay.
If they're gonna be there all summer.
All summer.
If they're gonna be there all summer.
All summer.
But yeah, so if you want, the Wardell family, it's just $75. You can all be lumped together, but it's no discount, and everone pays. We have we have families that have 6, 7 kids, pays the same for a family of 3. So those are things we're gonna be looking at in the future of, couple.
You wanna add it now?
No. We're gonna do more research. I wanna
Okay.
just feel like we've done our due diligence and make sure we've thought about it, crossed our T's, dotted our I's.
Okay.
So for the rec center, we're and the golf and what aquatic center too, we're doing wanting to calculate out-of-town people?
I think it was just the rec center.
Or was it just rec? Oh,
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
golf course. So that would be yearly and monthly membership,
Correct.
both?
Yeah.
And would that include, since we're going to monthly, which I think is a really good idea for the low-income rates, are we doing out-of-town for those two families, single parent, et cetera, the whole list?
So the thought would be only the monthly and the annual. The low income rate, we would not have an.
That would
we don't-
just be
we don't do-
monthly for anybody?
Correct. We've never historically offered the low income rate to non-residents,
Okay.
so we would
I didn't know if that,
continue that practice.
I didn't know if that's where we wanted to go or not go.
Yeah.
To not
What?
do non-resident for the low income.
Right.
Okay,
From what I remember, we
Wanted to
talked
make
about,
sure.
yeah.
okay.
Just
It's just
the,
these two columns, the annual and the monthly.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Yep. So you'll get that updated for the next one, Jack, correct?
Yep.
Okay, and we'll bring that one back. Okay.
Next would be the cemetery rates, and these are what we discussed at the work session. Baby land flush, upright, everyone knows the difference between flush and upright stones. Opening, closing, disinterments, all of them have a slight increase, about $25. We're still trying to be competitive with other communities. Karen, here at City Hall, I think it was just Karen, provided this sheet, and you got it when you came in tonight. Go ahead and review that. Kind of, we're in the middle, lower or higher in some areas, so. But this is what it costs for our operations, and I just think we look at this every several years and make adjustments. Any questions with cemetery rates? Okay.
Do you want want Jack to go through it all and then we can come back and do each one?
It's up to you guys.
Yeah. Is that, you want Jack to just finish?
Since we're not
and we
doing the
can just-
first one, I would suggest we just do them as we're going through them.
That's where I wanted to do was, so is there any other questions for Jack on the proposed cemetery rates? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve the proposed rates effective January 1st, 2021 for the proposed cemetery rates.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Base? Yes. Seaman?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Cots?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Thank you. And then the next item is the cemetery ordinance change, chapter 115, and Jack, please.
The one change is under number 7, cremation burials, where right now we have 2 that are allowed, and that's really 1 cremation and 1 full burial, or 2 cremations. We're gonna allow up to 4 cremations on the burial spot, in the same space. That's what we had talked about. And each time that happens, they will play opening and closing for that, according to the cemetery rates. Any other questions with that?
Since there's just changes to it, do you have to have we have to go through the 3 readings? You have to go through that, okay.
Ordinance change.
I wasn't sure if that ordinance change did that or not, okay. Any other questions for Jack on the cemetery ordinance change, chapter 115? If not, I'll entertain a motion, we can uphold the first and waive the other 3. Correct?
Correct.
I'll look for a motion to uphold the first reading and waive readings 2 and 3.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. There's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Cots?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Base? Yes. Motion is approved.
And then I need a motion to adopt. Is So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Seaman?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Cots?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted.
Thank you. Then the next item is the new policy number 821, cemetery grave decorations. And Jack, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Currently, there's no written policy on these decorations. We tell people through, the sign out there that their flowers and decorations are gonna be removed 2 weeks after Memorial Day weekend. But really, talking about the placements of the flowers, memorials, other items, trees, bushes, hedges, all those different things that are being planted that are making it a challenge for our staff to continue to do their operations and what they do to make that cemetery look as nice as it is. So this is just tonight, addressing the new policy. This will go in our policy book. The policy will be 821, cemetery grave decorations. And you've had time to review it. Were there any specific questions? Do you want me to read them individually? A lot of thought, and these were things that had been put on the book or drawn up several years ago, which is good to get some of the old history, and then we've kind of tweaked it with Jake and I, and Mike.
The only thing I would ask, Jack, is that when and if this is approved, that this is given to individuals that come out, so that people know it. Yeah.
Right there.
Got it. Okay.
So, and this is something maybe we could even
So that's that pamphlet that was folded up.
Right.
possibly do an ad or something in the newspaper.
Screw in the printer, so, okay.
You can get it in the newspaper. They would see what Karen had done this in the office for us.
Yeah,
Okay.
looks nice.
Yeah, she did. It's good work.
Are there any other questions for Jack on the new policy number 821, cemetery grave decorations? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve the attached policy number 821, cemetery grave decorations.
So moved.
Second.
Did you get them? Okay.
I picked one.
Okay. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Cots?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Then just bring that other one back
Yeah.
with those changes. Thanks.
Thank you, Jack.
The next item on the agenda is the rental housing code. And Mike, when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. First of all, to benefit those that may be watching at home, I would suggest, because I know with this, if you want to see what's happening in the council chambers, I would suggest switching to active cameras at the top view, and you'll be able to see the council chambers. But I wouldn't do that at Cat 6, please. That way you can see the council chambers. I do apologize for the earlier audio issues. I do think we have those resolved, just texting with other people at home. So anyhow, the rental housing code, the city of council has been working for over a year to create a rental housing inspection program and an associated rental housing code. This supports the council's adopted policy priority to develop and implement a rental housing code for the city of Carroll. There's been a lot of discussion about the rental housing code, and the council has spent a number of hours, over almost 6 hours, on developing a rental housing code for the city of Carroll. One area has been discussed is should we consider a complaint-based program or a proactive rental housing inspection program? And really just to highlight the two, in a complaint-based program, a municipal code enforcement officer conducts rental housing inspections, and if a complaint is substantiated, then the officer would do enforcement. A complaint-based program places really the burden of a rental housing inspection on reluctant tenants that then have to call on their landlord if needed repairs when they may not want to do that. An alternative is a proactive rental housing inspection program. And under a proactive rental inspection program, most rental units are inspected on a periodic basis to ensure that they're safe and habitable and the property values are maintained in the property. Typically, inspections take place at designated intervals, And while the hallmark of a proactive rental inspection program is that inspections are not complaint bases, cities with a proactive rental inspection program generally conduct complaint-based inspections as well. In many instances, a proactive rental inspection program may be more efficient than complaint-based program in ensuring safe and healthy housing to preserve housing stock, protecting vulnerable tenants, and maintaining neighborhood property values for all property owners, including owner-occupied properties. It's really for that reason, I know the council spent a lot of time talking and debating this, that they decided to proceed with a proactive rental inspection program that the proposed ordinances provides. The purpose of the ordinance that you're considering tonight for the first reading is to establish minimum standards and an ongoing inspection program for all rental housing programs in the city to ensure safe sanitary housing for all residents of rental houses in Carroll. It requires that rental properties apply for an annual rental housing permit and properties be inspected by the city a minimum of every 3 years in order to ensure health, safety, and welfare of the occupants of the dwelling and the general public at large. We did, through some of the discussions that we've had over the several meetings the council's reviewed this, did take one of the suggestions and did include in here a revision from what was previously reviewed. And that revision, it does provide that properties that have very few deficiencies would have an inspection only once every 5 years. Additionally, they would also pay a lower annual permit on an ongoing basis. Now, if you recall, the council did review this at their first meeting in March and did put a pause in place due to COVID-19. That pause, since that pause, the city has seen a rash of fires and unsafe living conditions as a result. The city actually declared dangerous building in one case, and up to very recently, we know that the residents were actually still residing at the property. Due to these issues, the city did announce to media and a number of rental housing property owners in the city that we were going to resume work on considering implementing a rental housing code on September 25th. And with the announcement on September 25th, I do want to make it clear that this was prior to any of the issues at Fairview Apartments that occurred in early October. So we don't feel that these are two related items. While there may be some benefits we think that can be had at Fairview Apartments, this certainly isn't an end-all to fix everything at Fairview. It's going to take a very concerted effort. But the two really are not linked. I mean, we've seen like I said, number of fires, not just one or two, in rental housing properties and conditions that really are deplorable. Now, we know COVID-19 remains a concern, and many, even with that, many communities in Iowa have began and restarted the rental housing inspection programs. In fact, of the communities that responded to an inquiry that I sent out on the status of the rental housing inspection program, all but one restarted their inspection program at this time. And even in light of COVID-19, they've done that. The one city that has not restarted their inspection program is preparing to do that before the end of the year. As we navigate through COVID-19, we're learning more about it and how to adapt to it and what are the best practices. And to that end, there have been a set of rental housing inspection COVID-19 safety procedures that have been developed by several communities in Iowa related to rental housing inspections. And the city of Carroll will use those, and we did include those in the packet for the public and the council's review. And certainly as we move forward through this COVID-19 environment, similar to the city, those will be changed and adapted as we learn more about the virus. As I've noted, or it should be noted, excuse me, that the city has not begun the hiring process for a code enforcement officer that would oversee the rental housing inspection program for the city. Staff does anticipate that if the council moves forward with the ordinance, that the first reading happening tonight, the second reading on November 9th, and the third and final reading adoption on November 23rd. If that is what the council ultimately proceeds with, staff at that point would begin the hiring process. We would plan to bring a job description for council consideration on November 23rd and begin that process then. Depending on the skill set of the candidate, Inspections may begin immediately when we hire a candidate, or they may need to be delayed for training, depending on the skill set. But I think in any regard, the earliest any inspection would occur would be sometime in February, even if we find the right candidate with the skill set that we want for the position. With that said, the city, if the council does proceed and adopt this, we do reserve the right. We do have some staff that has extensive building code and building inspection experience. Now, they're busy. We may not have seen, I know we have only had 2 new houses, but we've had a lot of building permit activity in the city of Carroll. In fact, this is one of our biggest years for remodel and rehab. It's one of our biggest years for commercial development in the city of Carroll for a long time. So that staff is busy. So we don't plan to have the building staff do rental housing inspections, but certainly if we get complaints and we have an issue that we need to address, we're certainly not going to wait if the code is in place to do that. Like I noted, the council spent nearly 6 hours so far reviewing the code, including 3 hours at their meeting in March. So with that, I'm not going to go through the entire code, but if there are specific questions, we're happy to answer those and go into those in detail with the council. With that, staff is recommending the mayor and city council consider and approve the first reading of the ordinance to adopt the rental housing code for the city of Carroll. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the council has this evening.
Mike, when you just mentioned training a new inspector, and assuming this inspector is not trained at this time, who's doing the training? Are we going to find some person from a town that's done this to train them? Do you plan to do it, or who would train them?
I think it'd be a combination of a lot of different factors. First, we would rely on staff that we have that have expertise and certifications in building inspections that we have on staff today.
Okay.
Second of all, we would seek out some training for that individual. Recall too that this individual is not being hired just for rental housing code inspections. That is one component, about a third of their position. Part of the job will also be to do code enforcement for the city as a whole. I don't need the Carroll Police Department. They do a fine job in a lot of areas. We do not need them out there measuring grass, checking on sidewalks that need to be shoveled, junk properties. A lot of communities have went to the code enforcement model, and that's what we plan to do. So that will be about a third of the position, and then another third will be doing sidewalk inspections. So there'll be a variety of areas that this inspector will do and will need to be trained in. So certainly as we gear the program, depending on the expertise. Now what I would say is, the council's been talking for a long time about rental housing inspections, and we've actually been contacted by a few individuals that have interest and actually have expertise. So we may be surprised and be able to find someone that will be able to go from day one.
Thank you.
Greg, maybe you could maybe answer a little more to that. Is there several different types of certifications?
Yeah, there are. All of the trades, there's a certification that comes with each one of those. And Perry Johnson is certified with the International Code Council in combination building inspection, that's residential and commercial. He is a commercial electrical inspector, and he's also certified in plumbing and mechanical work as well. So Perry's got a good knowledge of code and would be happy to share that with anybody we would hire. And I include myself in that also.
And then they're required to update that annually?
Yes, there's requirements for annual continuing education hours, and Perry is current on all of that, so.
Okay.
I would hope we would be pursuing similar qualifications for this new position.
That's our plan, and in fact, what I would say too is I think there is also some transition planning that we're looking to do. We know that both Greg and Perry are going to be looking to retire in the near future, and for Perry it's a few years out yet, but I think we are looking at some transitioning and some planning from that perspective. So yes, we would like to find someone that has the certifications to not only do the rental housing code, but also to do some building inspections in the future.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mike? I know when I talked with Mike about this, we were going to open it up for public comments again. Because while this is not a public hearing for the rental housing code, we'll give the public 20 minutes for comments. And people that wish to address the council will need to provide their name and home address and limit the comments to no more than 5 minutes. I would ask, please request that those that do want to make comments don't repeat comments that have already been made to be respect other people's time. So if there are other individuals who'd like to speak, please step forward.
Eric, I'd like to request that somebody use a timer.
That's fine. I've got
We have
it.
a time, I have a timer going.
Mike does. Yeah.
So people are allowed to voice their opinion and it's not dominated by one or two
Two.
people.
There's someone there. I see. Is that Margaret?
Yep, it's Margaret.
Go ahead, Margaret. I'll give you 5 minutes there, please.
Do you still need my address?
Please.
1472 muted, Avenue, Jefferson, Iowa.
Thank you.
Okay, the first question I have is actually going back to Fairview because we couldn't hear a darn thing here. Who's paying for the police force there?
That is currently, oh, go ahead.
Unmuted.
Margaret, that's currently being paid for by the city of Carroll.
Okay, muted. How is it going to be reimbursed to the city of Carroll? And for how? Unmuted. Muted. To do this. Unmuted.
Well, at this point, we have actually, like any use of police force, it's based on the need, and we believe we have a need there. Now, the property owner has discussed about reimbursing the city of Carroll, but through the USDA program that it's in, that requires approval of the USDA. Any expenditures at Fairview have to be approved by the USDA. So they're in discussions about looking at reimbursing, it may not be the total cost, but they're looking at trying to reimburse part of those costs.
Okay. Because I don't think anybody here would be eligible, muted, receive free security services at the taxpayers' cost. So that's the first biggest complaint. And then also I've seen several vehicles that have been towed away. Are they actually being charged back to the tenants, or is that actually being put by the city as well?
Do you want to answer that, Brad?
And you can unmute it, answer, that's if you don't have law.
The costs get associated back to the owners of the vehicles?
So the costs are being associated back to the owners of the vehicles.
Okay. I'm muted. And I'm not trying to criticize Greg or Terry, but you have two trained employees. So I'm just guessing there's a 40-hour work week, and 52 weeks out of the year. I find it hard to believe that based on the number of apartments and homes that need to be inspected, that's not something that they could not fit into their routine, especially if you're going to go once every 5 years. I do not understand why the city needs to hire another employee. And I'm not trying to downplay Greg's role or Perry's role, but it just seems ridiculous to hire another employee to, especially when you're losing businesses in town, to upset everyone in trying to pay another city employee to take care of something that's not being done. Unmuted. That's one comment. Muted. I guess I'd like to address my comments and then I'll let you take the time to answer them, if you're only giving me 5 minutes. The next one is, as far as they already put more money for apartments because they're federally funded tax dollars. And the city is using their tax dollars to provide, I guess, security for them. And now, we're going to ask us to pay for fees that cover landlords like theirs and other lands that are not theirs. But we continually numbers, and it's never gotten specific. And I know, Mike, when you talked about that tenant that didn't even have utilities to their complex or house, whatever it was, did they ever have them? Did they move in? Because the only way they'd be disconnected is if somebody didn't pay them. So I don't know who didn't pay them, but the numbers I'm seeing are less than 3%, if not less than that. And why would you penalize 97 to 99% of your landlords for doing a good job? You're just going to end up having landlords sell off their properties and have more government housing.
This is what we're supposed to.
And maybe, Mike, that's what you want. I mean, supposedly that's what the city is supporting, because it's not the landlords who are not living off tax dollars. And as far as the calls to fit, unmuted, it was over 400 calls. I think that was when we had almost per call. Double. Echoing.
Yeah.
And Margaret, your 5 minutes is actually up. What's happening with the echo is your computer is too close to an audio source, so we're getting feedback on your end. So the computer is right below the TV, and you're probably having the TV audio on. So I would suggest mute the TV and just turn on your laptop audio.
That's not my TV, so everybody has to know. Muted. I don't know how to do that. Unmuted.
So Margaret, if you could mute your laptop for a minute. And I'll go through and address the questions.
Go ahead, Mike.
Because
I
I think,
know where you're going, yes.
I mean, first you had asked about employees and the use of employees. I think first, like I indicated earlier, this is more than just rental housing code, but this is also other duties that frankly we have not been doing as a community, and also reallocation of resources. You know, we want, for example, the code enforcement and police use. We need to get the nuisance thing off the police department. It's not appropriate use of their time and energies. So that would be one reason. So it's not just, you know, we're going to hire an employee at 2,080 hours a year to do rental housing code inspection. No, they're going to be spending about a third of their time doing that work, or about 600 to 700 hours a year. Now, when it comes to Perry and Greg, I mean, first of all, I think with our fire chief does a fantastic job and is really a good resource for the community. That is a very complex job, and it's also a lot of work on the back end. So when we have a fire event, he spends a number of hours after the fire event's done working with insurance companies and investigators to go into properties and to understand what's happening in those properties. That takes a lot of time and coordination. Additionally, with our volunteer firefighters, it's recruiting firefighters to serve the community in a volunteer capacity, and so that takes a lot of time. And you know, that is also saving us a lot of money. If we had a full-time fire force versus a volunteer fire force, that would easily cost about $1 million a year in just staffing time. And so he needs to spend the time to do the good recruiting and then also provide the training. There's a lot of training that goes into that, so there's a lot of planning and work that goes in that. So there's a lot of logistics that go into a day, and while we see maybe 30, 40 calls this year so far, that is just a little pittance of the amount of time that is spent by our staff. When it comes to Perry Johnson, again, we're seeing more and more activity go on, and a lot more building activities that's happening. I'm going to mute a few of these because they're causing feedback issues. So hopefully that'll help and make it a little bit clearer for everyone else. And so, Perry, I believe we had about 200 building permits issued this year so far, in various capacities. 60 or 70 of them in remodels, a number of commercial. In fact, this year for commercial, just dollar-wise, we're looking to have another good year for the city of Carroll. And that takes a lot of inspections. And so when we're looking at the last 5-10 years, and we're actually at the front end of the commercial activity just in value, that takes a lot of time. So I'm very comfortable with our what they do, and don't question that they're not providing good value and doing good work. To the question on the utilities on the property and the disconnect, actually, those disconnects were at the direction of really the city of Carroll because they were dangerous building. I mean, the basement was collapsing into there, and it was working with Mid-American Energy specifically, I know, to get that disconnected. Their utilities were up to date. It was just a completely disrepair and complete disaster of a building. And in fact, extension cords coming out of the building and powering even other structures around the property. So that was actually not a case of lack of payment by the tenant, but this was unsafe building condition that was going on there. In fact, the city of Carroll turned off our water utility because, again, it was an unsafe living condition, and we needed to move to get the tenant to move along. And we believe maybe this weekend they actually moved out of the property while trying. When did we start that process, you think, Greg?
Began in May, and it just takes a lot of time to follow steps to get something done in those cases. So I spent a lot of time with that. But it began in May, and now finally we had a ruling and a municipal infraction ordered on the property, so.
So that wasn't a case of lack of payment of utilities. It was a direction of just a really unsafe building condition.
I think Mid-American made a couple of comments that, I mean, they even cut the wire, so it would be completely disconnected.
Yeah, and again, that was at our request, so.
Yeah. Okay. I think we have another public comment. And Leo, go ahead. I know who you are, but
Yeah, Leo Festival, I have a question about this, pushing it now. I know there's COVID's going on. I've got several of my tenants that have COVID. I can't go into their apartment. I don't, they don't want me in their apartment to do any of this updating they want us to do, like fire focus on, the fire extinguishers and all that stuff. And they're gonna charge us in December, and nobody knows when this inspection could come. I don't know if you council members know when the COVID's over. If you do, you're smarter than the rest of the United States. But why can't you just hold this off till COVID's done? It's pretty tough right now. Nobody, there's no answer to it. And then start it, work on it. And we could even have meetings where we could hear what's going on instead of have this echoing and not knowing what's going on. And I got one other question. You never ever answered it. Margaret asked in a few minutes ago, you kind of slipped past it. What are the numbers? You've been asking this for a year. You should have time to make this number down now. But we never ever get an answer. A lot. And I know if you had something with the city, if somebody asked you a question, well, what's going on? Well, that's a lot. You incentivize. You want specifics, you want facts. You've had a year, and you never, if no one reported facts, what is it over? So that's our question. I'm waiting for an answer.
all right, thank you.
Do you want me to unmute the callers and see if they have any questions?
That's fine, but I don't know, yeah. who's
Unmuted.
Caller 8.
So we're going to unmute a couple of the callers, and if they have any questions or comments, we can take those at this time too.
So there are some callers on the phone. Do you guys, any of you individuals have anything with regards to rental housing?
Muted.
Not hearing.
Hello? You didn't ask any of our questions.
Just,
Unmuted.
We will get to them, Leo.
Are you there?
yeah, just a second, Leo.
We're here now. We have heard no discussion back.
We have some other callers on the line that we're looking at too. Just a second, just getting everything cleared up here. Just a second.
I think we'll answer that. I'll mute myself.
I don't hear anything. I didn't hear anything from those other callers.
I didn't either, so I guess if there's any other comments, and
Hello?
we'll circle back to the others.
Someone-
This is Jeff McCardle.
Jeff, okay.
I do believe that we need to hear answers on Leo's, but I also believe with all the marble jarble at the beginning of this meeting, that somebody was, I believe was the mayor, interpreting Mr. Carlson's answer. But I do believe that he should be brought between, in front, so everything's clear. after he got done speaking, this go-to meeting became very clear, everybody could hear. And I think something will be brought up to let people know what's going on in Fairview, because it was not very clear. Thank you.
Unmuted.
I can address that and you can pipe in, Mike. Last Tuesday, we held a meeting down at the public library. There were council people in attendance. Brad Carlson was there. The chief of police was there. The county attorney was at that meeting. And there were some issues that had come out of that, I think, that will get addressed. I think that was a pretty productive meeting at the end. And some of what Brad had spoke about will come forward, I think, also again.
And, I would say we've held a number of meetings since the issues began in Fairview. And, let me first say publicly that, my daughter attends Fairview Elementary. My family lives 2 blocks from Fairview. You can see Fairview from my back patio. So certainly I have a vested interest to ensure that Fairview's improved and the safety of our community increases, because it directly impacts me and my family. So we held meetings the day of the shooting, actually with the school district, and had representations from them, city council, police chief Burke, and we take it very serious. And I have to really commend police chief Burke and his leadership through this time, and really making some good decisions. I mean, it was his decision and his idea to go to the 24-hour policing, and I'm not going to go into nor will Chief Burke go into what we're going to do and what our plan is. But what I would say is the 24-hour policing is not something that's going to continue on forever. We don't want to publicly announce when that's going to stop, simply because we don't want the maybe criminal elements to understand that. But there'll be some changes, and that won't be continuing forever. But we'll do some additional enforcement down there even when that does end, and be a really big presence in that. Like any other area of the community, when we have issues and we know about it, or for example, when we get requests from neighborhoods where they see a lot of speeding, we'll do enhanced enforcements in those neighborhoods. So we don't view it as really any different from that. When we have an issue, we go and we really work through it to make sure that we're addressing the issue. We've had a lot of conversations with Mr. Carlson, who's the owner of Fairview Apartments. And I don't know, Brad, how many times have you talked to him in the last month?
The last 2 weeks, at least a dozen, if not more.
Yeah, and I would say, very similar to me. In fact, we've had conversations at 9:30 at night on issues. And so, we really take it serious as staff, that we want to ensure that we nip this and really move in a new direction with Fairview. The mayor had alluded to a meeting we had last week. We had 18 stakeholders from the community that were there, that really represented a broad range of elected officials, law enforcement, even including faith community, to really look at how do we address Fairview. And I think there's a multi-pronged approach that we really have to take. It includes working with the ownership to make sure that we're addressing potential tenants up front, so before they're in Fairview. And we're working, I know city or county attorney Weirden had offered to work through some background, how we can do better background, because I know that's an issue that we struggle with some states having more difficult background information available. So, we're working with that approach. And, even then with the faith community, why are they involved? Well, we have a number of individuals that really reside at Fairview that are really good individuals in our community. I've talked to them, a number of them in the last couple weeks, that they're concerned about their own safety. And so how do we bring the community of Fairview to make their living conditions safer and move forward? So it is going to take a lot of approach, and it's a lot of issues there. One thing I do have to say, and I do apologize for the audio early on, but, Mr. Carlson's already said he'll be back at the next council meeting and continue the dialogue with the council. And I think that's really important, is when you have at least a property owner that's willing to have the conversations and work through, we shouldn't be here. I will say that. Mr. Carlson's owned the property for almost 3.5 years now. The conditions should be improved. I'm not going to make any excuses for him. He needs to do it for himself, but I've been very happy that at least he's been engaging and having conversations. And like I said, 9:30 at night, he's calling me because of issues and concerns that he wants addressed. And so that's at least a good sign from that perspective. There's a long ways to go, and I think as your staff, we're committed to get there. Going back to Mr. Kasserbauer, he talked about COVID-19 and hold off. That's really a policy decision for the council, so let the council speak on that. But my only comment would be is the issues we've seen certainly haven't stopped. And really, as we go through, it's really just kind of appalling what we've witnessed, and we're seeing issues, and I don't want to. I'm not trying to place blame where it doesn't need to be. I know I had one individual that started to accuse city staff of, we had a fire up on Court Street, I believe, that was, could possibly be arson. That will be a determination by the courts ultimately. And that was a rental property. Well, no, that's not the type of issue we're trying to address, and that's not where we're going when we say we see a lot of fires. But we've seen electrical fires in houses and rental properties, and that's a problem. Now, that electrical fire can happen anywhere, but when I looked at the numbers that Chief Schreck provided me, and I don't have them right in front of me. In fact, I maybe will actually have them right in front of me. He provided them, and I kind of broke them down a little bit further. But out of 31 fire calls between the first of the year and September 26th, there was 31 total calls. 9 of them were at businesses and city properties, 7 of them were at private residents, 10 of them were at rental property and apartments, and 5 of them were related to vehicles. Well, if a third of your properties represent rental properties in the community, but yet over half, almost 60% are at rental properties, that's a concerning trend. Mm-hmm. So there's some numbers. I had the opportunity with the mayor and Councilmember Haley. I'm sorry to put you both on the spot, but we went and toured, and they both kind of randomly kind of gave directions on how to turn on streets and blocks, and we went out and really said, okay, we picked what is the worst house on a block, just from a visual outside appearance. And in the case with the mayor, that was in April, I believe. Yeah. We had 15 houses that we looked at, and 12 of them in the end were rental properties. So, that's a pretty concerning trend. Again, when you look at properties, rental properties represent about a third of the properties in the community. Councilmember Haley and I did that this weekend. And I believe we were 11 of 20, or was it 12 of 20? 12 of 20, thank you for that correction. Again, that's 60% of the houses that we looked at, when again, rental properties represent a third. And the other thing that's really was shocking to me is we really were looking at the names and addresses of where these rental properties, and a lot of them were actually not even, were out of town owners, but frankly, out of county owners. We've seen a number of Des Moines Metro owners, and that's really concerning. I think as a rental property owner in our community, and you're seeing that issue where out of town property owners are really providing a subpar issue, that should be concerning, because they're able to undercut what you can charge in rents, and so I think we all need to be concerned about that. I mean, that's concerning to our neighborhoods when they're seeing that, and that then in turn leads to disinvestment in these neighborhoods where we do have a high concentration of rental properties. And, so it's something we really have to take serious. So, do we have numbers? No, but obviously one of the things that Mayor Jensen and I have talked a lot about as we move towards this is he's impressed upon me that we will have good statistics, and if the council chooses to go forward with this ordinance, we'll have a better picture as we move forward in the coming years.
Are there any questions from the council?
Yeah, I'm
Go ahead, Bert.
I'm struggling with this a little bit during COVID-19. I was that way with the bond referendum, and I'm still that way. I guess when you have a family that died because of COVID-19 and some friends you take a different approach to it. I agree, this is a 3-year program, and I'm trying to entertain the idea that if we have landlords or tenants through this COVID-19 period until we get a vaccine, if they do not want the city in there with this inspection, can we honor that and say, we've got a 3-year period, there should be time. If we don't get a vaccine in 3 years, we got way more mess than this. But, hopefully there'll be a vaccine. So those that don't want it during the COVID-19 period until the vaccine, I would like to see the city honor that they don't go into that place and then catch it on the next go around the 2nd or 3rd year. When this came up, around September 25th, I immediately said I'm not for this during COVID-19, and I guess that's where I stand.
While my daughter lives in St. Louis, and they had completely shut down the university down there because of COVID. We got her a rental apartment that was next to campus. She had a short 3-month agreement, and the city came in and inspected her apartment every month. That was right in the middle of all this stuff. So they do take the safety precautions that you need to take. And she wasn't all for it, but it got done. It's part of the enforcement process, and nothing ever transpired out of it. Now, that's not to say it can't happen, but in the experience that I just went through, they still were there every month. Even though they had inspected it the month before, they did it in June, July, and just before she moved out in August.
And I think what I would add is, Laverne, Councilmember Dirks, is we would really work with property owners, and we want, if there's an issue, we don't want to be an impediment. I think first of all, it's going to be a number of months before, if even the council proceeds, we're talking 4 to 5 months before we're going to do likely even the first rental inspection. The other component is if there's a property owner that really says, we really need you to wait, or a tenant that really needs to wait. One thing that we do see a lot of is, and I think one of the first area we really would work through is when we have vacancies. We would work with those, because that's probably the most ideal time to do it during this time, is when we have vacancies. We get a lot of that with our water utility department, because as a vacancy occurs, they tell us the deposit needs to get moved, and so that would be another area that we really would work through and really work with those probably on the forefront before we actually go and kind of systematically work through, just because of the COVID situation we're facing right now.
So you're saying that if your landlord or tenant doesn't want anybody in COVID-19, you would work with them? Is what you're saying?
Absolutely work with them.
I think that's more than fair, yeah.
Well,
Okay.
and it goes both ways. We don't want to expose our
inspector.
person.
Exactly
because-
right, that's where I'm after the whole
Well,
thing.
here are the guidelines, right here, that we're going to follow.
I get that.
And they're above and beyond the CDC guidelines as we're trying to conduct our lives and being responsible people. And I was really happy to see in here at the end, it has tenant health verification will be completed before the inspection and shall verify. I guess I want to know how that's going to be, how that will be verified. Because I was glad to see we're looking out for the tenant's health, we're looking out for employees' health, And when I saw how stringent the guidelines are, and the inspection's less than 5 minutes, CDC's worried about 15 minutes. So anyway, that's my question.
You know, our intent, obviously, when we get closer to implement this, if the council chooses to go forward, it would be staff calling likely the day before, just asking those questions.
Just verbal,
Yeah.
like they do at clinics and so
Correct.
on. Okay, that's all I needed.
We're not going to ask people to do COVID tests before we
Okay,
show up.
well, okay, so it's good, thank you.
One of the other concerns I have is you had mentioned some of them, some cities, they had their rental housing inspection and they put it on hold and then they restarted it. Well, we're not restarting, we are actually adding new. So they have had a pattern in the past and we don't have a pattern right now. And I guess I just feel, you know, we don't know the landlords and the tenants and us as a city, we don't know really 100% what we're getting into and what the cost will be for everybody involved. And, you know, there's a lot of those people that are renting right now, those are a lot of them that are subject to their employment being dropped in hours or no employment. And now we're trying to add some expense to that during COVID-19. I guess I feel uncomfortable with starting something like this during COVID-19, and that's my opinion.
I'm going to add to that, Laverne. I agree, but it's not COVID-19 for me. It is somewhat. I'm going to recognize that we can get around that and do these proper. But when I look at this, it's a brand new program, and it's sitting on my desktop here is 190 pages of explanation. It's just become too complex for me to feel that we're giving fair attention to what we really want to be inspecting. And you toss in the concerns that some of these people who may not be in particularly good health have with someone going into their facility where they live. And when you add the two together, I can't see how you're going to go in and inspect something in 5 minutes, if I've heard that right, 5 minutes inspection, under 15 minutes, and get literally hundreds of pages of concerns addressed when we have never had a program in the past. So to me, I'm just not comfortable starting at this time with something this big. And we've survived a lot of years without it. As I see it, some rental properties in town are actually improving. There are new ones that are better than before, going up. Anybody can see that. And I just think that we've called the attention, if we haven't called the attention to these rental property owners already, that there's concerns in this city that they should address, I would be very surprised, and I would look for things, even without this inspection program, to improve. So I just can't say that I'm ready to adopt something with this many elements involved. Toss in a little bit of COVID with you too, you know. I mean, that's in there too. But because there will be people worried. And they're not worried just because they're going to find something in there. They're worried about someone being in their home and exposing them. But I'm past that. I think we can do that. It's just it's just so complex that I can't see starting it up at this time when we've got to address other issues at the same time. So I'm not ready I'm not prepared to vote for this at this time.
I don't think the complexity is as much an issue as you think, Jerry. With inspection programs that the city does already between building codes and such, what Perry and Greg are already doing, this is an enhancement to it. There's things that they'll be going into. This is code that's been in place for years in a lot of instances throughout this. And as for springing something on to the landlords, they've had this in hand for almost a year now. You know, this is an issue that we've been addressed. We started talking about this 4 or 5 years ago. We've been heavily in conversation for over a year. Is it ideal? I can't say it is, I can't say it isn't. but it's something that we delayed because of COVID. I think it's pretty far stretched to think that we're going to be doing inspections as early as February. I really do. I think there's too much certifications. I think there's too much training we want to do. I think that's stretching. I think it's going to be later than that. And we have no idea what tomorrow's going to bring. If we don't move forward now, what's the next obstacle that's going to stop it? What's the next one after that? If this is something we're committed to doing, I think we need to move forward and get it approved. And we can make adjustments if we need to. You know, such as Councilman Dirks brought up, you know, if there's issues with COVID and concerns in a residence, I think we're sufficiently addressing that. And I can't believe, working with the city as many years as I have, that we're not going to be cognizant of those issues and address them as they come up.
I just, you know, Clay, I didn't realize you had gone around, I guess now, you know, just like what I had done, and there's plenty, I think, that are empty that we can certainly start with and get the process going on those. I don't think that's gonna take a while to get it rolling. That's what I look at.
Well, and the checklist is pretty short, that they can go through themselves and ask questions. You know, a little over 3 pages. It's really pretty basic. So, I mean, it's very straightforward and very simple. Basically follows the code of Iowa with just structural, electrical, those kinds of things. So I think the longer we wait, there are areas that are just, I'm hearing it constantly. People come from out of town and say, what's happening? You know, Carroll, there are a lot of rundown spots. It's getting, people that talk to me, Jerry, the perception is that there's a lot that has been let go, and I think a part of it is staffing. And I think we need to jump in at some point. It maybe won't be, it probably will be down the road, as you said, Mike. So I would like to see us get moving on this and be cognizant of, as Mike said, of people's feelings about the COVID. And I think we have staff that really work well with people. I think we could make it work. But I know what you're saying, but when you look at the checklist, it's pretty simple, just a couple, 3 pages.
Like
That
when I was
they
talking,
address.
I think realistically, I don't think we're gonna get started much before March
Yeah,
with inspection stuff anyway.
yeah.
But at least the code is in place, but the inspection stuff may take some time. That's where I'm seeing it. We're gonna be 6 months further along from now.
But we don't
March or
know,
April.
we don't know what COVID is going to be doing. We're at the highest peak we are right now with COVID-19, and we're moving forward with this now. We don't know what COVID's going to be 6 months from now.
But Jerry, Laverne, you can look at that both ways, though. We don't know what it's going to be. It
Well,
could
yeah.
be different tomorrow.
Is there
It
that
could be
much of an
different next
urgency
week.
to move forward with something that we're on the upscale on COVID-19 yet? And we're throwing this, I just feel uncomfortable about, I really agree that yes, this housing inspection needs to happen sometime, but just not right now with putting, the COVID-19 is just too strong in my mind to go forward with this at this time.
Placing the code into effect doesn't start the process. I mean, it gets things going, but it doesn't mean we're going to be doing inspections next week. It doesn't mean we're going to be doing them in 2 months. It doesn't mean.
But once you get it started and rolling,
Mhm.
that's going to be tough to stop it.
It's not going to be hard to stop it. I think if Mike, as the city manager, doesn't say, council, I know this is in place, I'm recommending that we need to delay this due to environment, you really think any of us are going to sit here and go, no, we passed the code, get moving with it? The law being in place doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be starting that soon. We've got to have it in place. And this is one of those things, we've talked time and time again, that we can't enforce some of the issues that we have currently because we don't have a code giving us the authority to do it. I mean, this is so much more than just walking into somebody's house. And I would like to take just a second to address Leo's question about the numbers. And I can't speak for all my peers, but I know I can speak for myself. As a council person, I get addressed several times. You can be in Walmart, you can be at a restaurant, you can be pretty much anywhere, and somebody will come up and ask you questions or give you concerns. I don't carry a notebook with me. I don't make a note of every time somebody mentions something. But it's something that when you start hearing it, you start addressing it and asking questions. And you may get a half dozen before all of a sudden you realize that this is a bigger issue before you really start doing things. I don't keep tick marks on anything or report cards on whatever happens. But when several people start addressing things, knowing that you're only hearing a small percentage of the complaints, you've got to take notice to that. And that's exactly what's happened, is we're taking notice to an issue of concerns of this city. So therefore, not having specific numbers and using that as an argument to not do it, it just doesn't float with me, because yes, there's not hard factual data there, but I guarantee you everybody here has been addressed, and you probably can't answer how many times you've been addressed on a particular subject on anything throughout the past number of years that you've been on council.
I think it's more or less just getting the code in place. The inspections are gonna follow way down there's gonna be a while before the inspections are gonna start to occur. It's just like what Councilman Kotz iterated was getting the code there so that we have something we can enforce. It's not just the inspection, it's the property itself. And you can start to take individual complaints now and go look at those. And ones that are vacated, we can figure those out. And also, we can certainly inspect those up front and get that cleared out of the way until more of this issue with COVID resolves.
Well, and what is disturbing to me is there are a lot of houses in Ward 4 that I constantly get complaints about. People send me texts of pictures of houses. And remember, I mean, the purpose of this is not to penalize anyone. This is also to protect the inhabitants, their health and safety. And when I hear about basements collapsing and somebody saying, put a coffee table over a hole in the floor so the kids don't fall through, that has happened. Consider the motivation behind this. There are places where we really have to be vigilant, and a part of our job is to protect the health and safety of our residents. And that is the motivation behind this, as well as having a city that looks nice and is well kept and protects property values. To me, it's about the health and safety and protecting these people that are maybe put at risk, and they need somebody to advocate for them. So that's where I'm coming from too.
I mean, I'm looking at the photos that you sent out. I mean, some of it's just horrible. It's horrible.
Well, look how long it took Greg, the house that he mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So, these things take time, and I would imagine that when inspections kick in, we would, I don't know, would you prioritize and go to the things that you believe are worst, the biggest threats or the most in need? So we would prioritize those things?
Yeah, I think we will.
Is that what you're thinking
Yes,
about,
we'll do
Mike?
some
Great.
priority inspections. But honestly, I think the way we'll really approach it is divide the community up into 3 sections.
Segments.
And then try to work through it that
And
way.
then look at it. Okay, thanks.
And certainly, if someone has that fear, we're not going to force our way into them.
No,
You know?
no,
I don't think that's right.
it's not.
That's not something I would stand for, certainly.
Mm-mm. No, thank you.
I think the respect of the tenants and landlords for that purpose needs to be upheld too. So. Any other questions, comments? If not, I will look for a motion to uphold the first reading on the rental housing code.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Kotz,
Yes.
Base,
Yes.
Fleischner?
No.
Haley?
Yes.
Dirks?
No.
Seaman?
Yes.
Motion is approved. 4-2.
And so we'll bring it back for a second reading.
Correct. We'll bring
Thank
it
you.
back to the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you. The next let's see, we're going to resolutions next. And the first item under that is the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget amendment number 1. And it is 7 PM and we'll open a public hearing. And go ahead, Laura, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Attached is the information, the resolution, as well as a listing of the items that are included in this first budget amendment number 1. The public hearing was published in the Carroll Times-Herald on Friday, October 16th, which is in accordance with our timelines that we need to for budget amendments. I will not go through each individual item. If somebody has a question, I will try to answer it. But in general, most items included, almost all the items included, were projects or purchases that were a part of either the fiscal 20 budget or prior, and that we would like to do those in this fiscal 21. There is one in particular, two in particular items that council did take action on this fiscal year, I think we took action in, fiscal 21 to add a couple of projects for the retail recruitment in the US 30 corridor plan. Those had not been in any prior budgets, but are being included in this budget now so that there's expenditure money, there's an allocation of funding for it. But this is a time for the public hearing, for anybody in the public to make comments and for council to ask questions.
Since this is a public hearing, am I unmuted, Mike?
No, you're not. You're good.
I'm good. Since this is a public hearing, if there's anyone from the public with regards to the budget amendment number 1 that would like to speak, this is the time to do so. Please unmute your mic. Not hearing any. Is there any comments from the council? If not, it is 7:02 and we'll close the public hearing. And I'll look for a motion to approve fiscal year 2020-2021 budget amendment number 1, please.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Seaman?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Fleischner?
Yes.
Cots?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. The next item under resolutions is the authorization for advancement of costs for urban renewal projects and certification of expenses incurred by the city for payment under Iowa Code 40319. And Laura, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. At our last council meeting, council took action to amend the Westfield Urban Renewal Plan in order to fund some projects within the area. Part of the projects also included funding the administrative costs to get this set up and to record the plan as required by state code, as well as to reimburse the road use tax fund for public improvements that were completed in the area back in 2007 through 2009. Attached is the resolution that authorizes the advancement of those costs if we haven't paid for them, and to certify the expenses incurred to the county auditor in order for us to request or get reimbursed by tax increment financing or the TIF collections from within the area. We need to incur, or we need to create a debt, and this instrument is the debt instrument. We've worked with Nathan Overberg at Allers to prepare the resolution and document this internal loan. So I'm looking for council to approve this resolution and then use this as our debt instrument to request reimbursement from the TIF in that Westfield urban renewal area.
This was for the, when Walmart was,
Mm-hmm.
is that what it was?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure I keep those track. Okay. Are there any questions for Laura? If not, I will look for a motion to approve the resolution that authorizes the internal loan to the road use tax fund and the general fund from the Westfield Urban Renewal Fund and pledging tax increment revenues from the Westfield Urban Renewal Area for the repayment of the loan.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, please.
Dirks?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Thank you. We have no reports this evening. I trust everyone's read the committee reports and the monthly activity reports. And I just hope everybody stays warm this week. Sounds like we'll get a little warmer by the end of the week. And thank you again for coming this evening. And are there any comments from the city council members? Comments from the city manager?
Just a reminder, we have our planning retreat on Thursday, the 29th at Swan Lake. So it'll be at Swan Lake, the Educational Center.
At 4?
At 4 o'clock, yes. Good question.
And don't forget to vote. That's coming up next week. Look for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
Motion and a second. We'll go ahead and vote, please.
Fleshner?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Base?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.